Hello, welcome to Paranormally Speaking. I'm Cathryn. I'm with my co-hosts Trevor and Lynda. How you guys doing this week? Trevor, it's so good to see you. Sorry,
I'm glad to be
we
back.
haven't seen you for a while, so it's like we've been missing Trevor. So there you are.
We have been missing Trevor, but you're still alive. You're still here. It's all good.
barely. I'm, still standing. So just real busy, lots of work. It's just the way it is. So
Right.
Stupid adult life's got to cut into my fun life. So bills.
Why does it do that? I tell you. I mean, honestly, right? Like you're supposed to like when you're little and you're like, I can't wait to grow up. And then you're like, why can't I just go play in the sandbox for a while?
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like WTF.
Yeah. Like you want to go to the playground and just swing on the swings for a while, not worry about bills or even think that they exist or anything else. I think we should all have a couple of days like that.
Yeah, I just need like a week where I don't have to figure anything out. I don't have to solve any problems. Somebody else can take care of it. And yeah, I'd be okay with that. So
Yeah, exactly.
just a couple days, even a day. I don't have to make it this day.
Oh, I do have an update for anybody who was watching last week. As we were closing out the show, we had a whole bunch of ruckus and loud motor bikes and all kinds of crap that was interfering with the show. And so I did go outside because my neighbor was out there starting to like lose her mind on these people that were doing this. And so the cops were called and they actually got fined big time. So it actually turned into a thing. So it did get solved, thankfully. But it was quite a thing. It turned out it wasn't just us that were complaining. There was like an entire neighborhood that these cops got called on. So they're like 911's getting like flooded by all of, because there's a playground down the street. And so they were doing about 100 down our street on crotch rockets. So yeah, it was quite fun. So anyway, I just thought I'd quickly update everybody. And hello, Brenda. Let's bring on our guest because I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Well, so our guest tonight is Mario. I always screw it up. Neophytou. I'm sure he'll tell me that I pronounced it wrong, but anyway.
He's giving you the thumbs up. So.
Oh, good. Got it. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, I just lost him too. There we go.
Oh, no.
At least it was the thumb. Yeah. At least it was the thumb and not. Yeah.
Right?
Not the other one. Not the other. Yeah.
Right. And of course, he's the founder of New Light Paranormal up in beautiful Keswick, Ontario. We share the same paranormal territory, Mario and I. And I couldn't be happier because, it's always good to have another group that, you kind of jive with, that you can share information and that you can sort of, just be yourself with. So I think it's going to be a good conversation, because it's always good to have somebody new on the show, although you're not really new on the show. We've had you on a couple of times.
Yeah, I think it's the third time now. Yeah,
but it's good to get different perspectives and, talk all things nebulous. So welcome, Mario.
Thank you.
So I have a question. This has to do with what Lynda just said. So do you guys, because you're in the same territory more or less, do you find, like, do you guys get like the similar cases, or like does somebody come to one person or one team and then go to the other team? Like, is there, you know what I mean? Like, if they're not going to get the answers, let's say, because we know how some people are, like, and if they're not getting the answer that they want from one team, they're going to keep searching until, somebody's willing to go with the standards that these people are apparently seeking.
Yeah, so that has happened, and being plainly flat and honest with the client, I always tell them I'm going to go and speak to Lynda about it because I need to know what Lynda has found and what Lynda's thoughts are on the client as well, because it helps me evaluate where the case will go, if the case needs to go further, or if it's a case of someone just seeking, that bit of attention.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. We've all dealt with those many times, but that was one of the reasons I was asking, because here in my city, at the time when we were investigating, we did have several teams that were in the city, and there was always those teams that were going to entertain these people, always.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and you think it's a demon? Do you think it's this? It is. Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna bring in our troll dolls and shake them all over the place, and our Ouija boards and thump our drums and do whatever the hell we're gonna do. And so yeah, you always get those people. So I was curious about that, because I was like, how does this work? Especially when you do have a good relationship with the other team, right?
I think that's important though, because if there's other people doing the same thing as you, it would be silly and a loss of opportunity to combine your resources there.
Yeah,
agreed. Well, unless they're charlatans, at which
Yeah,
point
that
you go.
then it's about then it's about educating people to sort of stay away from that sort of thing.
Yeah,
exactly. And it's hard too, because go ahead, Trevor. Sorry.
I was gonna say, yeah, I love that. That you guys you can bounce ideas off each other, you can collaborate. That's something that we're trying really hard to work on down here, but we're trying to overcome a lot of egos, and it's so weird. It's like, yeah, we all want to accomplish the same thing here, but it's interesting just how I swear it's like it's like different churches, trying to get together and find some sort of commonality. It's super weird. People just get at least down here, there's been a few people that I've been running into that are pretty decent. We can get along, but man, I tell you, it has not been easy.
But see, that's the thing. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's about the ego. Some people just need to know when to bow and accept that either they're wrong or the other party is wrong. But that doesn't mean you have to have a conflict there. You just need to learn how to work around that.
Yeah. Does your team? You know what I actually found, because I know with Lynda's team, I know your team works very well with like mediums and psychics, depending on, and I think you've got a couple on your team itself, right? But do you find that when a team does have like a medium or psychic that sort of, I guess, is beyond just an investigator, do you find that there's more conflicts with that? Because that's one of the things that we did find. If we had a medium, let's say on our team, and just so people know, if I was a medium on the team, if I was a medium for a case, I was not in the case. I was unaware of what was going on in that case. I just want people to know. But sometimes we would bring a medium to the actual investigation, and I always found that if there was another team there was always a conflict. Have you ever?
Who's that directed to? Was that
both of you? Yeah, you, Mario. Yeah.
I'll let Lynda take it first.
Oh my gosh. Well, we do have well, I'm going to say she is a clairvoyant, not really a psychic medium or anything like that on our team. We do have intuitives on the team, and we're all relatively intuitive, I think, on the team. But, we have worked with other people who have come with us on investigations, and some of them have been okay. They've kind of stayed with with us on the investigation, not really said too much, but contributed at very fitting times during the investigation. If we ask them, what are they experiencing? Are they seeing anything? Where perhaps should we go? Should we go down this hallway? How are you feeling about this? And it's been very good. We have had others who have sort of wanted more of the spotlight. And it's like what Mario said, it's that whole ego thing. And I think a lot of psychic mediums, especially if they have a large following and perhaps do a lot of, events and things like that themselves, they might be wanting to command the spotlight more than perhaps a psychic medium who is not in it for that, who's in it for the actual investigation and the good of the investigation. So you have to choose your psychics very wisely, and I've said it before, there are psychics and there are psychos. So you have to be really careful. Be careful.
I think I'm both, but anyway.
You're a psychic or a psychic psycho.
There you go.
Either one. I'm okay. You know, you can take whichever. However it comes out. I'm fine.
Depends on the day, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm fine. I'm fine with either. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. I know. But Mario, have you noticed that as well?
I have. I've experienced that in the past, and my team doesn't have a dedicated psychic on hand yet. I mean, I'm speaking with a couple, but they haven't attended any investigations. I'm still, I have to make a decision on that. But yeah, I think it's always a good practice not to have them involved too much with the case itself. I just think sometimes that could give the client a bit of a false hope in the sense that they think they're going to be given readings as opposed to resolving what is happening in their home, if that makes sense.
Yes, yeah. Like they're expecting that the person is going to be coming in and telling them about love life, or somebody who's passed over that's not even related to the case or whatever it is. Yeah. And that's just not. Go ahead.
I think if I was to bring a psychic into an investigation, I wouldn't even let the clients know that I was bringing a psychic into the investigation. They're just another investigator. That way, there's no expectation from the clients. I can use, and as far as, mediums and psychics, whatever that they get, we have to take with a grain of salt until we can prove it. But I really like to use them kind of like a guide or a compass, kind of if they can pick up on energy and they can steer the investigation one way or another and help us that way. If they come up with names or something like that, we can start doing research and see if we can correlate what they're coming up with and better help the client that way. And then at the very end, we have, if we have something to present to the client, this is what we found, this is the names that we came up with, and that way our psychic friends can remain relatively anonymous and not feel like they're being put on the spot. So
yeah.
And that's a good point as well, because that also ties into what Lynda was saying. When you have a psychic that is so well known, that's harder to do, because when the name is associated and they have a public presence, then the expectations rise.
Yep.
Absolutely. So on kind of the topic of psychics, I guess, let's talk about, because we were talking about this before the show started. Let's talk about, like, what are your thoughts about this whole Ed and Lorraine Warren thing that's sort of happening now? Do you have your own personal thoughts? I mean, I know that we all do. I think that we've spoken about them fairly directly, So
yeah, I mean, Ed and Lorraine, they did what. Okay, they're not here now, so I don't really want to speak ill of the dead or anything like that. That's not what I'm here for. I think what they were trying to do was try to help people. I think things got a bit messy at times.
Egos
But
come into
in
play,
regards,
that kind of stuff.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about the ego. But now what's happened with their property and it going up for sale and being bought by Matt Rife and the YouTuber, I forgot the name is, what was it, Elton Castillo or something like that?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from what I remember, I was following this back before they even bought the property, and I don't think it was all Matt Rife. I believe it was Elton pushing for this in the beginning.
Right.
So suddenly, how everyone spun it on Matt Rife was the one making the final decision. I'm not so sure.
Probably because
But
of his fame and the fact that he's a comedian and not even
right,
known as an investigator, right? But from
right,
what I've
right.
understood is that he has done investigation in the past.
Yes, yeah. I know he's appeared with Zach as well on a couple of his shows or something like that. But now that they're coming out and saying that they want to charge people to do overnight investigations in the museum portion of the house, it goes against everything the Warrens originally stood for in keeping those items away from people.
Yeah.
So I'm not exactly sure. I'm not sure how I would take it. And the price tag alone is allegedly around $2,000 a night for around 8 people maximum.
And from what I understand, the museum itself isn't a large space. It's not like you got a warehouse, right? Like
No.
this is a small area. So to have 8 people in there,
on a
like that,
on a residential street as well.
yeah, like this is not a healthy way to go about it by any means.
No, I don't believe so. I don't believe so.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I know that they got the property, but I mean the items as well. They were able to acquire all the items. That are in
They
the
actually
No.
are. So they're in. What are they? They don't own the items, but they are guardians of the items for like 5 years.
Yeah,
Or
it's 5
something along
years
that line. Yeah.
until they find another property to move all the items to.
Yeah. So,
I've got a crawl space. We can just stick them down there. Sure, it'll be fine.
It would have been more interesting if they had a constant live stream on all these items. That way, I think that would be more,
That'd be
right? A
interesting.
lot of people would probably, tune into something like that,
Mhm.
yeah,
right? Rather
a
than
little bit
actually
less
putting
risky.
people at risk. Yeah,
I think so.
I think so
Yeah.
too. So I'm just sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I was just going to ask. So Mario, in regards to the haunted items, have you ever had a case that has included haunted items or something along that hemisphere?
Yes, yeah. I've had in the last year I've had a series of items altogether come to me. They were in one bundle. They were all World War II items. I won't go into too much detail for privacy reasons, but so I won't mention names. But the individual was reporting that he was having constant nightmares, that he was seeing shadow figures when he would have this item in his possession. His friend offered to have the items at his place, and then his friend started reporting having these similar instances and electrical issues as well, as the items were close to his breaker box or something like that. It went back to the individual after his friend couldn't deal with this, and this individual decided not to keep it in his house, but to keep it at his work locker. So
Good
he was
choice.
online. Yeah, he was online messaging about it. I actually saw this. I was just curious to see what sort of things on Marketplace were out there, what people were, the crazy stories that you hear. And not that I paid for this item. I didn't pay for anything. I was just talking to him to hear the stories of what the alleged
Yeah.
story was out of curiosity. And then he was like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm just going to send it to you. And if you can help, that would be great. So um, I've still got them now. I did a recording where I was opening all these items up. And it's weird. I don't like leaning on this too much. I sort of have this thing where I get pressure headaches if I'm around a certain energy.
Yeah.
And as I opened this package, I did get a pressure headache, like a really bad migraine sort of thing. Whether that was some sort of EM field around me, I'm not sure. Whether it was transient or something, I'm not sure. There are power lines outside the house as well. So, but I wasn't registering anything with the EMF detector, so everything seemed dead and clear. But at the time I was recording, I thought everything was fine. I did have another spike headache attack at one point. Come a year later, very recently, like last week, I decided I'm going to go back over the recording, and because I wasn't experiencing what this individual was experiencing, I was constantly in communication with him over the year, just seeing how he's doing, how
Right.
reporting things that I was experiencing, because we might have seen the odd shadow, but nothing to the degree of what he experienced. But I went back over the recordings and listening at nighttime, because naturally that's what you do when you listen to EVPs in the middle of the night. But I was there and I was listening back, and I'm going back through at one point where I'm saying, "Oh, I'm going to keep all this packaging," because I do that. I do keep all the packaging, for you never know what you're going to need it for. But as I'm doing this, I hear a voice come through, because I'm running the spirit box as well at this time, and this didn't sound like it was coming through the spirit box. It sounded like it was over the sweeps, because the following phrase was like, "What are you going to do with all that packaging?" And I was like, that is the most random thing to have come through, especially as I'm talking about keeping all the packaging. I thought I should have listened to this much clearer when I first did, but it's things like this, and being able to see visually on the audio editor, the sweeps, and seeing how all the how many sweeps. I think it was about 16 sweeps this went over this sentence. So I was thinking, that's not one radio station just bleeding through.
Yeah.
So it was just when you see things like that, you just get roped back in. So that's where I am right now. I'm being roped back into this case with all these World War II items.
Well, I guess you better go answer the question then. What did you do with all that package paper? I mean,
Well, I think they got the idea afterwards. But that's one of my golden EVP moments for me, I think, as well, because it's a direct response to an event that was happening, in the moment, and it wasn't just that blur of radio chatter.
But it's
It's
also
kind of
oh,
interesting
sorry.
because it's like you're being watched at that moment too.
That was also creepy.
You're
Yeah,
standing there like literally like, okay, like seriously, bud, what are you gonna do with this stuff? Like
yeah, that was creepy. That part was creepy. I mean, I always seem to do this around whenever I do the EVPs. I always do it at night as well, or listening back to the audio. And I didn't have any lights on, so the first time I heard the voice come through, I was like, I need to go to the bathroom now.
Oh my God. But it shows you the value, right, of going back and listening to things. Because how many of us have kind of dismissed audio outright, and then all of a sudden you think, geez, I've got all of these USBs or whatever, and what am I going to do with them? Are they any good to me? Let's just listen to them one more time. And then there's that golden moment where you go, well, thank God I didn't get rid of this, because there is something there. And so many of us have dismissed things and then gone back and gone, boy, whew, it's a good thing I didn't delete this, because there's actually something there.
I don't think
remember an
people
EVP that
understand how much work goes into these investigations. I mean, it is, you go, you everything from, from the initial contact with the client to, finishing up the investigation. It is hours and hours and hours of work. And then when you're done with the actual physical investigation, you're left with all the audio files and the video files, multiplied however many hours times however many pieces of equipment that you have.
Yeah.
It is a daunting task, especially for a small team. But, even I have several people on my team, and we still are trying to get through evidence from 3-4 years ago, and it's because it's just, it's tough. It's hard to sit there and stare at a screen and try to, and really focus for that amount of time on what you're hearing. Then if you hear something, you got to rewind it 5 or 6 times. It's, man.
It almost makes me wonder how you see half of these teams out there that jump from location to location on a weekly basis, and yet within a week they declared they have the best evidence out there.
You gotta wonder.
You gotta wonder that, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, the only way that you could probably do it is if you had a team, if you had a set amount of people that were just literally dedicated to listening or watching evidence. Almost as soon as like, oh, a tape's done, here you go. Here's a tape done. There you go. Yeah, I think that would be like the only like logistical way in order to do that. I remember one time we had an EVP that came through, and we me and one of the other team members, we were in one of the bedrooms, and we had said, if you're here or somebody's around, just maybe, do something. And if you can, even just touch one of us, like, gently touch one of us or something. And I said to her, do you feel anything? And she's like, no, not really. And then we went back to the EVP later and we heard, well, I'm trying. I was like, shit. And it was a very distinctive male voice. Like you could tell it was definitely not her or me or anybody in the house, right? It was so funny. Well, I'm trying. Sorry, buddy.
Right.
It was funny. But you gotta love it when you get that kind of evidence. It's like,
well, those are the golden moments as well,
right? Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah,
we started doing a lot of live EVP work, and that's recording at the same time, using what we call the ears of God. It's just a very, very powerful recorder with a really sensitive microphone. And we got to be careful with the volume, because it'll blow our eardrums out. It can get so loud. But I mean, we can hear everything, which is really cool. And what I like about that is, like, when you have that golden moment, if you're getting that reaction and you can hear that, then so if, like, I'm listening and I hear, what are you going to do with all that packing paper? It gives me a chance to respond as well and try to see if we can keep the conversation going. The cool thing about the investigating this day and age is the technology is starting to shine. It's starting to catch up, and we're starting to be able to catch more stuff. And
so, question: Have you guys noticed that you would get more EVPs during events where there's more noise as opposed to when there's no noise. Like, I mean, ideally in our controlled environments, we want zero noise so that we can hear a response. From my experience, I've gathered more EVPs that are intelligent when there has been a bit more of a background noise, and I almost wonder whether that's because that noise generates energy in itself
Hmm.
that they're using. They're using the frequency of the noise that is being created, if that makes sense. I
But
mean, that
maybe
is
the energy
basically
from the room, right? Like the more
right.
people that are there, it's like it's like an electric field, because we as humans give off electricity, we give off a sense of an energetic field. So it probably gives them a little bit more power to be able to speak up more. I guess is the best way to say it.
Right. I mean, that was, I guess, the general why we would have white noise at one stage instead of just silence before.
Yeah, yeah.
I find a lot of EVPs when my investigators were just sitting and we're just talking and we're having a good time ourselves. We're just kind of chatting, doing our thing. The investigation's going on, and a lot of the EVPs we get, it seems like that the spirit there is just trying to join in. That makes sense. They're just trying to be a part of the crowd. I mean, I've had I remember one where we were walking down a hallway getting ready to go up to an attic in Gooding, and we were all talking, and on the audio we hear this female voice speaking in another language, just talk over the top of us, like, you know, I don't know if she was yelling at us to be quiet or what, but you know, but we've got a lot of those types of EVPs where we're just, I agree. I think a lot of times when there's something else going on, they might feel a little bit more comfortable to do something. I mean, you think about how introverted people are, you know, when if everything's really quiet and everybody's just standing around at a party and nobody wants to talk. I mean, you know, they don't want to be heard. They don't want to be the center of attention. Yeah. So
That's
I
true.
wonder if too it's the when we're in a relaxed state, it's sort of like if we want to bring it back into something like manifestation or whatever. It's like when you're waiting for a phone call to happen and you're tense and you're waiting, the phone call's never going to happen. So, right, you know, we're just sitting there staring at our phone like, but when you're in a relaxed state and you send off a different energy. And so I think it's kind of like what you're saying, Trevor, like you're in this relaxed, fun type of state. So it makes it easier for them because of the fact that we're giving off a different energy. It's not a pushing away, it's not a pushing energy, it's a welcoming energy.
I agree.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. And it just feels like, because there's been so many times, you know, that we've been doing an investigation and something like that just happens. It just comes through and you're just like, oh, this is so cool. Question though, have you ever had like where you hear the or it's not so much an EVP, but you're hearing the actual voice live?
a disembodied voice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not sure,
So
actually. Sorry, go ahead.
Mario, you need to come do some investigations with me. I'll get you some disembodied voices. I know right where to go.
You will.
I can hook you up. So I had a great one in Oregon at one of the hotels over there, where there's a little girl in the basement in this hotel. And you know when we do public investigations, and so we have guests that'll come along and tell them, you know, hey, you know, throughout the night, you know, you're going to make weird noises, your body's going to make sounds, your stomach's going to make sounds. You know, we don't want to mistake you for a demon, so just own it, tag it, you know, claim it, you know, whatever. So we're down there doing this EVP session, and one of the guests, he kind of lets out a fart that everybody can hear, and he says, "Tag, that was my butt." And
I know which
everybody kinda
investigator you're talking about.
what And one we're all kind of chuckling about it, but all of a sudden we hear the little girl laugh. She like giggles over that statement, and I just froze. I was like, "What? Did anybody else hear that?" And somebody's like, I heard a little girl laugh. I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes!" And we got that. We had that on recording. It was great. You know, you never know what is going to spark a response. It's pretty amazing.
One thing you do now know is that farts are funny in the afterlife.
Farts are hilarious in the afterlife. I don't care who you are. Bathroom humor is funny, okay? It's just funny. It's not immature. It's hilarious.
Oh my God. I love it.
We had a disembodied voice once, I remember, on an actual case where we had gone into this house and we started going down into the basement, and we had the recorder going, but we were walking at the time. We were heading into the basement, and I was just like, "Hello, is anyone here?" And then I heard, "Hello." And I was like, I'm looking at the two people I'm with, like the investigators. I was like, "Did you say that?" And they're like, "No." And it was the scariest because it was so friendly. It was like she was excited to hear us. "Hello." It was like, okay. But it was funny because we actually didn't get any EVPs from that case.
Oh, that's true.
Like for the rest of the thing. And it, at first I thought, okay, is this an echo? So we tried it a couple of times. No echoes, no nothing. Just this, "Hello." Like she was responding to us. It was the freakiest thing. I was like,
so if you don't mind, going back to when we were talking about how psychics influence the cases and whatnot, I just wanted to ask, would you think, or would you assume, well, not assume, have you encountered a scenario where the presence of the psychic or medium or gifted person has created more of an environment where EVPs are more common, or would the absence of a gifted person have more EVPs come through?
That's a really good question. Personally, I haven't really noticed a difference between being there or not being there. But usually, like if I did actually attend a case, even though I'm picking up on things, I guess but it was more kind of tuning myself more to, should we be alert? Is there a stronger energy in this room than this room? I wasn't really there in the capacity of like, oh, this is, Betty Sue from blah, blah, blah. I wasn't like there for that type of reason, simply because I already knew a lot about the case before going in, because I'd be part of the team. So it wouldn't have been fair if I was like, blah, 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 blah. Look at me, look at my ego, talking about things that I already know about, right? So I wasn't like, so when I was, but we did find, we didn't really find a difference to,
Okay.
not for us personally. I don't know. What about you guys, Lynda, Trevor?
No, not a difference at all, actually. If a spirit is going to speak at all, I don't think it really matters if there's a psychic medium present or not. Although, a psychic medium could perhaps, like you said, Kathy, steer you in the direction of maybe where there is more activity. But I have never really, encountered more EVP activity or spirit box activity or anything like that when there has been the presence of a psychic medium. And we have a clairvoyant on the team. And it doesn't make one iota of a difference because, again, don't you wish that ghosts could perform on command, like spirits can just, you could just go, "Okay, can you just talk?" And they would, but they don't, right?
Yeah.
I wish they could, but
Well, they probably could. They just don't want it, right?
well, that's exactly right. Yeah, exactly.
It's just I also wonder because if the psychic was there and the spirit was speaking to the psychic, would they think, well, what's the point in me putting my energy into creating these EVPs for you if I can just talk to this person and
True.
convey my
Makes
message?
a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. Yeah,
That's sort of where I was going with that.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Like,
I feel that I don't think it's got to be a psychic. I think different people just elicit different responses from spirits. I mean, when our friend Peter Wren comes down and investigates with us, uh, activity goes nuts around him, and I don't think he's really provoking anything. It's just his personality. He's very loud spoken. He's very forward. And it seems to drive the spirits nuts, and they tell him. So, and there's been times where I'll go to a location and I'll go in and there'll be crazy amount of activity centered around me, and then I leave and it all dies down, and or another team member. And I think just like in real life, just like in life, we gravitate towards certain personalities. We gravitate towards certain people. We feel more comfortable around certain people. I think that probably has something to do with it. I've had investigations where psychics were on there where absolutely nothing happened. And I've had investigations without psychics that things were going crazy. So I think it just depends on the person and the personality.
That's
Yeah.
true. And just their presence too. Like, for example, we have Katie on our team. And when we were investigating a former sort of psychiatric facility in the children's wing, they were gravitating towards her because she's fun. She wears really colorful clothes. She has blue hair. So she is really interesting. And I mean, the meters were going nuts, and, we're getting a lot of voices coming through, a lot of activity, because she is who she is. And they were attracted to her energy and attracted to the way that she looks and she appears. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That blue hair of Katie's, that was probably one of the first times I met Lynda's team was at one of the cemetery walks, and I was still getting used to my gear and everything, my camera, and I took a picture of the group doing the cemetery walk, and it looked like I had captured an apparition of this old colonial man with a helmet. And I was so convinced of this up until I think it was Lynda or someone else mentioned on one of the comments that, well, didn't one of the investigators have blue hair? And I was like, oh my God, that is.
But here's the thing. That is a sign right there of a legitimate investigator. Like, because there's a lot of investigators that would have fought tooth and nail. No, I'm right. This is this, and this is that. And I am dead determined to stick with, with my original evaluation of this. And we've seen that ego come through many, many, many times, and even just in clients wanting to believe that something is something when it's a nothing. But and so to hear that basically says, look, this is a man with like actual scruples and morals in regards to investigation. And I think it's more common now that we do have people that are like that, but we all know, those investigators, that it's just about the ego. That's all it is. It's 100% the ego. One of the questions that Brenda asked, have you ever had anything follow you home after an investigation? And of course, Trevor here, Mr. Smartass himself. That's when I got this on my waist. I never saw it again. but yeah. So Mario, have you ever had anything follow you home after an investigation that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. I always seem to have weird moments, but I'm not sure whether it's from an investigation. sometimes I can leave myself pretty open, and I'll have odd dreams of things. I think the weirdest thing I've ever had, actually, the same cemetery that was at that cemetery walk, the one up by Queens. What's it called again, Linda?
The Man Cemetery.
Man Cemetery. I was parked up there once because I was going to go out and do a little sit down and see if I could, have a little EVP moment. But when I was in the car, it felt like something was shaking the car, and it
Wow.
freaked me right out. I mean, I didn't go straight home. I went somewhere else first. Then I was saying, you can't come home with me. You gotta go back to where you came from. But that was probably about 2 years ago now. So yeah,
Oh, wow.
that's the closest thing I felt like something was actually trying to attach to come home with me.
That's a weird place, actually. That
Yeah.
Man Cemetery. There have been a lot of reports of people seeing things, lights they can't explain, hearing children's voices, large, tall, dark figures. So yeah, I'm not surprised. That's a freaky place.
We have
He did
a
the right
cemetery.
thing.
What's that?
He did the right thing, not going
Yeah.
home right away, telling whatever it was, you're not allowed to follow me.
We have a cemetery here very similar to that, and we used to take tour groups, on it, and do a night, of investigating or whatever. And some days you would go into the cemetery, and it was the most peaceful. It was just, it was very peaceful. It was a beautiful cemetery, lots of older trees. It was an older cemetery. Lots of World War I and II veterans that were in it. It was also like half of it was a military cemetery. Lots of children and families from the plague, back in the early 1900s. Like, beautiful, but otherwise it's a beautiful cemetery, not because of those reasons, but you know what I'm getting at. And most nights you could go in there and it was just peaceful and quiet. And then other nights you would go in and you're just like, shit is about to stir. And I remember my daughter and I, we were in there one time, and well, we were with a group, but her and I kind of wandered off, and somebody brought their kids along and they were just annoying the hell out of us. So we were like, okay, we're going to go somewhere else. We're going to go wander on our own.
See, kids, there it goes.
Right.
It scares everybody off.
Like who would do that? Like these kids were like fairly little too. And I'm like, why would you bring your little kids along? Eh? But anyway, so it was one of those nights, like we're not in the mood for this. You know what I mean? So my daughter and I wandered off, and I don't know what happened to Trevor. He just
He'll be back.
The kids got him.
It's the kids.
So, but we were walking, and all of a sudden, her and I, we just sort of stopped, and there was this I can't even tell you how big it was. This ball. It was like a black ball. And it was massive. Like I'm talking like probably about the size of a human, but it was a round ball. And at first you're like, what am I even looking at? Like, am I looking at any, like, am I just losing my mind? Like, is this like because it was already dark in that area. So it was darker than the dark. And so your brain is trying to adjust, and my daughter stops and we're both like looking in the same direction. And she's like, Mom, do you see what I see? And I'm like, I see that. And she's like, what do we do? And I'm like, run. And we just turned around and we ran. And this thing was like, you could see it like following. Oh, but as soon as we kind of got to the little walkway inside inside of the cemetery with the lights, it seemed to have dissipated. Like it kind of stopped. You know what I mean? But I don't know what it was. Don't want to know. Don't want to. But there was times like we would take a tour group there, and people would report having bad dreams, having like just bad anxiety and all kinds of stuff. But then again, sometimes you went there and it was just perfectly beautiful.
I thought you were going to say completely dead. Come on, you missed it.
From From
What would you
what
say,
I've
Trevor? I can't hear you.
sorry.
You can't hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, right. I'm curious on these two cemeteries. Do they have like around the exit? Do they have the shoe brushes you stand on? You scrape your shoes on?
No.
Do they? No.
The ghost brushes?
Yeah. That's it. I was so surprised to find out that's a thing. And a lot of cemeteries have them. It's like a superstition thing. And so if you feel like you're gonna bring something home
Oh,
with
to
you,
brush
you
off
use it.
the junk
You
from the
brush off.
cemetery.
Yeah, so you don't take something home with you. You brush it off there at the entrance of the exit of the cemetery. So
I know you were gonna tell us a story, Mario. What I think we kind of missed it. Oh, wait, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Mario.
Sorry. Yeah, so I was just gonna say, what was I gonna say? No, in regards to the brushes, yes. My mum used to tell me about that all the time. Not literally the physical brushes, but always travel somewhere else once you've gone to a cemetery, not to bring anything home with you, just in case. Because whether or not you're going to visit a relative doesn't necessarily mean the relative's the one coming back with you. The other thing I was going to say was, I don't always think it's the residents of the grounds that are the ones haunting the place. I think the elemental guardians that
Yeah,
look
like
over the dead.
watchers.
Yeah. I think that's what we encounter more at these places, and whether they take on the appearance of these other beings or whether they can shapeshift to other things, I don't know. But that's what I would intuitively feel is happening.
Yeah.
If that's a direction I would go with.
That's interesting because that was our show last week. We were talking about shapeshifters and all of that stuff. And yeah, I think you're right. And I do think, I mean, in our experience, and we've been to quite a few cemeteries as a team, we've encountered what we believe to be the guardians of the land, probably elemental spirits. But when you take pictures, how sometimes you have that pareidolia thing going on, and it doesn't matter if you take a picture and you see one thing, the same picture might yield another vision at another time, even though it's the same picture. They do appear to shapeshift into some pretty gruesome figures, almost to just scare you out of the cemetery. They don't really want you around to do whatever you're doing. They don't really want you to be there after a certain hour.
I found, it was interesting because we had been to the cemetery, I don't even know, dozens of times, and we had never seen this black thing ever. And I was kind of, one of the first things I thought was maybe it was irritated about the kids like we were, because because they were like beep, 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 and wouldn't shut up. Like there was not a moment of like you're just like shut up, like seriously, like enough is enough. Like you know what I mean? Like this, like there's a bunch of people here, and this isn't about just these two children, right? Like you know what I mean? At some point, and you're trying to be polite, but you're trying to do EVPs. Like these people took their time out to come to this cemetery and spend their time here, and you're mom, and I was like, this is irritating me. Maybe it's irritating this watcher or guardian as well. That's how I felt anyway.
Were those people with the kids? Were they part of the tour, or are they just?
They were part of the tour, yeah, and they just took it upon themselves that they were going to come with their little ones, and it was like
we don't allow anybody under the age of 14 without a parent.
See, they were with parents. They were with their parents.
Well, I mean,
right?
we don't. Let me rephrase that. We don't allow anyone under the age of 14. 14 and up.
The only thing is, it was a public cemetery, so we can't stop them. Like we're just going to the set. So I mean, they would still probably have been there, but maybe just wandering somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Okay,
So
I see.
either way, we can't kick them out of a public area, right? Like it wasn't like if we had booked the place or made it like a particular tour where it was just but there could be people like there at any time there was sometimes people there visiting loved ones or whatever, but yeah, so unfortunately we couldn't really. If they had caused trouble, we probably could have said more, but unfortunately it was, yeah, it was just unfortunate. But
Just
I
scream really loud. Just scream, "Ghost, run!" and just take off
Run!
running, and maybe they'll go, and then you can come back.
that's when you look at the kids and go, "You're gonna have horrible nightmares."
I don't know. These days, the kids all seem to go for the apps themselves, and they go looking for these things.
Right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They do. There was another good question there, though, from Brenda.
What was your favorite EVP or most memorable EVP? Yeah.
Okay. Who's that for?
That's for
What
you.
Mario?
Oh, for me. Other than the recent one I just spoke about with the World War II items, there was one that involved my son,
Ooh.
and I didn't like that. But it was one of these. Actually, it was one of these instances where everyone's just talking amongst ourselves, and my son comes into the room after sitting in the living room. He was just having his pizza. He was just watching TV, and he comes into the kitchen while we're all talking. This is a friend of family as well, so that's why he was present. So it wasn't like a full-on investigation, but they were talking to us about things. I said, I'll just leave this recording just to see if there's anything being picked up. But out of the blue, he comes into the kitchen and he says to us, "Can I go down to the basement?" And there's a voice that repeats that says, "Yes, the basement."
Oh, God.
And
Yeah.
there was a while where
side.
there was a while where I was like, he's not allowed to come back here ever. So
What did he think of that?
probably I was bricking. Yeah, I did not like it, but I didn't know. I mean, what who wants to have the child go down to the basement for what purpose?
Did you play it for your son? Did he
No
listen to
way.
it?
He'd
No.
have nightmares. He said he was
I was just
very
curious
young.
how he reacted. How old was he?
He was probably when this happened was probably about 5, 6.
Oh, God.
Okay, so that's a little young.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's a
yeah.
little.
And yeah, it was just too much. I think I'm just trying to go back here because a lot of things seem to happen around my son. Even at our last apartment, there used to be things that would get attracted to him.
Mhm.
And there was one instance where I would wake up after being awoken from a dream that startled me awake, but it felt more than that. It felt like I was being woken up from this dream, and I felt instantly like I had to get to my son to go check on him. And as I was debating whether I should get up or not, he starts crying from his room. I get up, I go down, and it's like as I get to the threshold of his door, this is when he was about 2 years old. When I get to the threshold of his door, it's like I walked into the thickest electrical field. Every hair, and I didn't expect it. I wasn't fearful at this point, but the moment I stepped into this field of static electricity, every hair went on end, and I turned the corner, and there was just darkness in the corner of his room, and I didn't. At this point, I wasn't freezing or questioning things. I just got angry. I got angry that this thing was in my son's room. And we weren't doing investigating back then. This thing, I think, just kept getting, all these things just kept getting attracted to my son. And whenever I would be around my son, like, you know, when I was holding him, cuddling him, and things like that, I would get it would be like my intuition would be clearer when I'm with him. So I think he's got his own sort of spark, his own light, and he makes things clearer. But yeah, that was quite scary. I followed that up with doing a cleansing and clearing. I had a piece of black tourmaline that I would put on all the door frames. When I was doing the clearing, when I got to his room, the tourmaline that was on the door frame just exploded.
Oh God.
It didn't fall down and just break into little pieces.
Yeah.
It sounded like someone shot it.
Oh my
It
God.
literally shards of it on the floor. And I hadn't seen that happen before.
Yeah.
So that took me back a bit because I was looking around. I'm like, how, even if this piece of black tourmaline fell down, how did that just shatter into all these shards and sound so loud? It just took me back. But yeah.
Wow.
But they say that when a crystal breaks like that, it's done its job. So
Yeah.
was that an example of that, or was that too much energy for this thing? I don't know.
Creepy.
Hematite does that too. Hematite, especially if you wear it as a ring, it absorbs a lot of the negative energy around you. And I've had a few times where the ring will just explode. Like once it's done, it's done. You know, and you'll be sitting there and you'll just be like, whatever, you know. And then all of a sudden, you it's like, and you're like, the hell, like you'll break off into like actual pieces.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I guess you've absorb what you can absorb and we'll move on. You know, so Brenda says once again, a great show. Thank you so much, Brenda. We truly appreciate it. It's, you know what, we can only be a show because of the fact that we have fantastic viewers like you. So thank you so much for being here. And Mario, thank you. It's always a pleasure to have you on. I hope we can do again soon. And thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. And we always look forward to having you hang around after things show off or shut down if you're okay with that. And thanks everybody for being here. And take care, everyone. And we will see you soon. Say bye, Trevor.
Bye, Trevor.
Bye.